Airlines flight with 239 people on board, including 4 Americans, has gone missing.
Malaysian Airlines Flight 370, a case which continues to be a mystery and has become an obsession to many as they try to find out what really happened to the 239 people on board the flight. The flight disappeared with over 150 Chinese, 38 Malaysians, 7 Indonesian, 6 Australian, and another 7 ranging from the US and France. Passengers and 12 crewmates. The oldest person on board the flight was 76 years old, whereas the youngest was just 23 months old, making this not only just a vast mystery, but a terrible tragedy too. In 2014, on the 18th of March, a Boeing 777, which is a larger aircraft compared to other planes, disappeared and was never to be seen again. It was a routine flight that took place every single day from Kuala Lumpur International Airport to Beijing Capital International Airport. There were 2 pilots on the plane, Captain Zahra Ahmed Shah and First Officer Farq Abdul Hamid. Shah had been flying for Malaysian Airlines since 1981 and had over 18,000 hours of flying under his belt. He was passionate about flying and it was his dream job. He even had a flight simulator at his home. Whereas Hamid had only done 2,700 hours of flying and it was his first time flying a Boeing 777 without a training captain. He was getting put under review by the Malaysian Airlines for inviting a few girls into the cockpit of an aircraft while he and another captain were smoking. Also notable is that there were 2 male passengers who were stopped by security but were later let through and were thought to be Austrian and Italian. However, the men have since been identified as Iraqi nations who boarded the flight with stolen passports. The plane departed Kuala Lumpur at 12:40 am and was due to land in Beijing at 6:40 am, with a flight time of approximately 5 hours and 34 minutes. The flight was to fly directly there and was mapped to fly north over the Gulf of Thailand and Vietnam. For this flight, an aircraft flying this duration would only need 82,000 pounds of jet fuel, but MH370 had 108,000 pounds. This amount of fuel would get the plane around 7 hours and 30 minutes of airtime, and officials claimed that they needed this amount of fuel to be able to get to an emergency stop, in case they couldn't land in Beijing. Although this was further explained, I still find this amount of jet fuel too much and rather suspicious. At around 1:20 am, Captain Shah made the last ever transmission that flight MH370 would ever make, which was "Good night, Malaysian 370. This wasn't unusual though, as he was crossing over from Malaysian airspace to Vietnamese airspace. But what was weird was that a few minutes after this transmission, the plane shut everything down and disappeared from the radar and communications. After all the aircraft's communications and transmission devices were shut off, the plane did what literally looks like a U-turn on the radar data. Authorities have stated that this turn would have had to be done manually and by someone who knew how to fly a plane due to the suddenness of the turn. At 1:30 am, Malaysian military and civilian radar began tracking the plane, as it was an unknown and unplanned aircraft flying southwest over the Malay Peninsula and northwest over the Strait of Malacca. Then, 22 am, Malaysian military radar lost all contact with the plane over the Andaman Sea. A satellite in orbit over the Indian Ocean received hourly signals from the flight MH370 until its last detection at 8:11 am. But this did not contain any information on where the plane was and that it was only just still in the air. Even though people were aware that the plane had vanished and gone off track, the search for the plane did not start until 12 hours after MH370's last transmission. Malaysian Airlines personnel did not even question why the plane had gone off course. It doesn't make any sense. That on top of that, Malaysian Airlines would then release false information about the plane's whereabouts, and the Malaysian Military Aircraft Control apparently saw the plane go off track and didn't even do anything about it, because it was known as a friendly aircraft. Even if it was friendly, it wasn't meant to be there, and they knew that, and yet they just ignored it. A search and rescue mission was launched in the Southeast Asia. A week later, that search was moved to focus on the southern Indian Ocean, making it the biggest and most expensive search and rescue ever. There were 40 ships and 34 aircraft from 26 countries that pitched into the search and searched a 45 million square kilometers radius. But there was still no sign of the Boeing 777. After more accurate details were released about the plane's trajectory, the search moved to focus around 1,800 kilometers of the sea floor just off of Perth. but somehow nothing was found. In January of 2015, the Malaysian government released an official statement declaring the disappearance an accident. A strange conclusion, seeing we already knew that the turn the MH370 off track had to be done manually. On January 17, 2017, the official search for the flight was called off, although families on those aboard still held hope for finding out more about the fate of their loved ones and started their own search in Madagascar.
East African coastline, nothing has been done to date. So it has fallen into our hands to take on this search upon ourselves.
Sadly, this search was unsuccessful in finding out anything else. Another inconsistency in the search was that the black box from the plane was somehow never recovered. Now, a black box is an indestructible thing that every single plane has in the case of a crash. It carries about 2 hours of cockpit recordings and 25 hours of flight data that can give evidence as to what actually happened. It is even waterproof, and it has this underwater locator beacon, and this beacon sends out a pulse of its location for the next 30 days until it runs out of battery, meaning the pulses should have continued until April 7th, 2014, after the plane's disappearance. But bizarrely, it was never found. How couldn't they find any parts of the plane at all from these searches? The ocean is big, but a Boeing 777 is a lot bigger than any seaplane that has managed to be found. There was even a beacon going off for a month, but yet there was no detection of the plane. In 7 years, only 3 fragments of MH370 have ever been found. A flaperon, which is a small portion of the wing on a Boeing 777, was found in July 2015 at Rion Island. In May 2017, another plane wing fragment was found in Mauritius. A wing flap was then also found in June 2017 at Tazron on Maplur Island in the Indian Ocean near the mainland. The most probable conspiracy theory that will be further investigated in the next episode is that the plane's disappearance was deliberate and carried out by Captain Shaw. As less than a month before MH370, he conducted a very similar Boeing 777 flight on his at-home simulator, where he took off from Kuala Lumpur and turned towards the southern Indian Ocean where the plane fell. But that basically means he did a suicide mission on his at-home simulator. Instead of just starting over, he went diving into the ocean. He did this with another flight, and then another, with one crashing into a tower. He tried to delete them, but nothing is ever deleted from the internet. I believe mainly in this theory as it's clear and has reliable information backing it up. But there are so many more theories, such as hijacking from the 2 passengers with stolen passports, government involvement as they were suspicious while searching for the plane, and why the plane was carrying more fuel than necessary for the aircraft. This will later be covered and thoroughly investigated in the next few episodes.
What happened is the plane delayed or cancelled or something like that, and he just told me that there is some trouble. I don't know what means the trouble, so I asked him, and he said the plane was missing.
That no one is alive. I don't believe that.